we think about from the policing perspective where we can do that, it is certainly in the space of gender-based violence. It is an issue that is one of our top calls for service here in Peel.
So how serious is this issue, and can you share some data from the previous year?
Gender-based violence, intimate partner violence is one of our top calls for service. Did you know that a woman is strangled almost every day in Peel? And that's just from our records. What I can tell you is more than likely it's under a survivor who had an extremely high probability of dying from the injuries that she suffered at the hands of her spouse, allegedly, right? We had parents who lost a daughter to intimate partner violence. We have one of the largest intimate partner violence units in the country. We just passed the budget, and one of the things we're going to do is expand our intimate partner violence unit and safe center model.
Laws, do we need to bring the reforms in the justice system and more enhanced safety measures? What needs to be done to break the cycle? Do you want changes in the criminal code at federal level?
I would love to see changes.
But why our politicians not acting? Because they say there is no need to change the criminal code. That what the member of parliaments, when we talk to them, they said ask the province, they have the criminal codes, they have to act, we don't have to do anything.
Yeah, I would really, depending on the offense and the topic, I would like to see changes in the criminal code.
This week also, police arrested 5 people for break-and-enters and other thefts. $237,000 of worth goods were stolen by them. But we got lots and lots of messages by the community when they were sure that they will be released. And that happened, they all got the bail, they are released. So they will be a repeated offender, they will do a crime again. So is the morale of the police force, because you are doing advocacy, we are doing advocacy, the criminals we are seeing, they are out, they are doing a crime, police is catching them, and they are out again. They will do a same crime. And you already mentioned there is a small number of people. So why can't we keep them behind the bars?
It's a great question. I agree.
I ask you, since you have experience in the law enforcement and you are a justice minister for a one day, or you are a leader of a country, into this experience, what one thing you will change, what needs to be done?
Yeah.
Peel Regional Police and Peel Police Services Board, in recognition of International Women's Day, they address the issue of intimate partner violence. How serious this issue is, what are the causes, what are the prevention and enforcement tactics the police and the board is taking to control this issue. Peel Regional Police, the Peel Police Services Board, उन्होंने इंटरनेशनल वुमेन डे ਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਇਨੀਸ਼ੀਏਟਿਵ ਲਿੱਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਾਲ ਟੂ ਐਕਸ਼ਨ, ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੰਟੀਮੇਟ ਪਾਰਟਨਰ ਵਾਇਲੈਂਸ ਆ IPV ਉਹ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਨੂੰ ਐਡਰੈਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਏ, ਉਹਦੇ ਕੀ ਕਾਜ਼ਸ ਹੈ, ਕੀ ਰੀਜ਼ਨ ਹੈ, ਐਨਫੋਰਸਮੈਂਟ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰੀਵੈਂਸ਼ਨ, ਇਹਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਪੀਲ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਅਲੋਂਗ ਵਿਦ ਪੀਲ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਬੋਰਡ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ, ਆ ਸਾਰੇ ਤੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਪੀਲ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਦੇ ਡਿਪਟੀ ਚੀਫ ਨਿਕ ਮਿਲੋਨਿਚ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ intimate partner violence ਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ. Deputy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Neetan. It's always a pleasure. Really appreciate you.
Thank you. Deputy, International Women's Day. Every year we celebrate that, and this year in recognition of the International Women's Day, Peel Police along with the Peel Police Services Board, they are taking an initiative call to action for the intimate partner violence. What do you want to tell us, our viewers, about this initiative?
Yeah, the decision to do that, I think, is really rooted in the idea that it's incumbent upon everybody to make change and to have an impact. And, when we think about from the policing perspective where we can do that, it is certainly in the space of gender-based violence. It is an issue that is one of our top calls for service here in Peel. It disproportionately affects women. And, it also affects their families and their communities. So when we look at how we can participate, how we can celebrate that day and advocate on behalf of the people that should be celebrating and benefiting, it was a very natural choice.
So how serious is this issue, and can you share some data from the previous year?
Happy to. It is one of the most serious issues we deal with. Let's look at Peel, okay? Peel is one of the most vibrant, largest municipalities in Canada. The diversity that's here is amazing. We are an incredible community. But the reality is again, as I mentioned, gender-based violence, intimate partner violence is one of our top calls for service. Did you know that a woman is strangled almost every day in Peel? And that's just from our records. What I can tell you is more than likely it's underreported. And so the numbers are actually staggering. A large percentage of our homicides, before we changed our service delivery model, almost 40% of our homicides could be attached to intimate partner and family intimate partner violence. And it's an obvious place to begin investing resources and attention to trying to address. Women are losing their lives. We had, yesterday we had an event, and it was in celebration and the kickoff. Obviously International Women's Day is tomorrow on Saturday, but we had an event. And at that event, we had a survivor who had an extremely high probability of dying from the injuries that she suffered at the hands of her spouse, allegedly, right? We had parents who lost a daughter to intimate partner violence. And these are lives that are forever changed or forever gone. And that's why it's so important to us as an organization to invest in this and to do whatever we can to prevent other people from being affected in the same way.
So is this most visible in certain communities, or all the communities have these issues?
All the communities have the issues. But I do believe that, there are certain nuances about Peel that give me more concern. There's stigmas that some communities carry more than others. Some communities may have more of a lack of trust in police than other communities, and therefore they may be less willing to report. And these are all things that exist in Peel. And I think they're all things that exist in Peel, but also emphasize how important it is that here in Peel, we don't just, we're not willing to take a back seat and let other people lead. We have one of the largest intimate partner violence units in the country. We have a model that's been endorsed on a variety of different levels. I really believe we're setting the gold standard here, and it's not to brag. We're doing it because we need to, and there's advantage to our community. I can tell you unequivocally, Neetan, we have saved lives. We just passed the budget, and one of the things we're going to do is expand our intimate partner violence unit and safe center model, family justice center model, which currently just sits in Brampton and of course deploys to all of Peel, but we're going to expand that into Mississauga as well. We're going to make it more convenient for people to get help.
So what's need to be done at the provincial and federal law levels? Do we need to change laws? Do we need to bring the reforms in the justice system and more enhanced safety measures? What needs to be done to break the cycle? Yeah,
there's so many different pieces there. Beginning with once, okay, so first I think it's really important to understand prevention and awareness. We need people to feel comfortable to come forward with those types of issues, whether it be a survivor, a family member, whatever the case may be. Understand the signs of gender-based violence and share them. Look for help. I think that's really important. So the more we can do to increase awareness, the better. And then we talk about what can be done from a legislative, policy decisions, those types of things. And the reality is there's a lot of similarities in the space of gender-based violence and some of the other crimes that you and I have discussed before. We need to look at who's being released on bail, under what conditions are they being released, and how are they being monitored? What are the sentences? How easy is it for a person to access illegal firearms? These are common characteristics that we can talk about in the space of intimate partner violence. We can talk about in the space of carjackings, home invasions. They really are gaps or soft spots in that system that are failing to or aren't protecting our community as well as they could. I'll give you a story. So I spoke to, actually just yesterday, Darian Henderson Bellman. You may be familiar with the case. So this was a young woman who was murdered and allegedly by her partner, who was on multiple forms of release and had been released from bail over and over again. and again, allegedly with an illegal firearm. I say allegedly because it's still before the court, but this is nothing that surprises a seasoned police officer, because they see it quite regularly. So you look at that and you ask yourself, well, how can we prevent it? We need to prevent it first with an idea of getting more people involved. Like, the community needs to understand that it's an issue, and if you see something that concerns you, call police, call somebody to help. Then we need to look at the individual situation, like, how did it happen? Why is the person out on release over and over again? Why is it that they're allowed to continue to be violent to a person? And how are they accessing illegal firearms? And when you begin to fill those gaps, that's when you make it more difficult and less easy to commit those offenses the first time, the second time, the third time, and the fourth time.
Deputy, it's a very serious concern because many, even the mayor's level, the Peel Police Service Board and Peel Police Chiefs, they did advocacy because today we are discussing an intimate partner violence, IPV, because it's an International Women's Day. It's a serious concern. Many women across Ontario, they are suffering in silence. But we have carjackings, we have other crimes also, and we see these repeated offenders, they are out on bails, as you mentioned. So why that advocacy is not working at any level, provincial or federal, because there is a blame game between both the levels, that roller coaster, many times we ask that in press conferences, why they are not acting? Because a single life lost or single life suffer is too many.
Completely agree with you. One life ruined or lost, way too many, especially when it's predictable and preventable. And it's one of the reasons why we've been so strong here in Peel on the advocacy. And you mentioned, I'm going to share some good news with you. So an issue for our community for, I'm trying to remember the first auto theft summit we held, but auto theft continues to be a concern for our community. We advocated for that. Our mayors, our police service board, elected officials, collectively here in Peel, we really circled the wagons and did what we could do to try to encourage decision makers to make the right decisions. And we had some wins. We've advocated with elected officials at the province, at the federal level, and we have had some wins. We have scanners that are more available at some of the local intermodals here. We're starting to see more enforcement activity and more attention paid to the issue. This year, we are down 54% year to date in auto theft. That doesn't happen without that collective will to make it happen. So, in relation to some of the other offenses that you mentioned, the carjackings, the home invasions, intimate partner violence, we need to apply that same momentum in those spaces for the things that we need. And so I'm an optimist. I believe that we are making a difference. Gender-based violence, we have saved lives, absolutely. This year we're being resourced and have, again, the budget has passed, thankfully. So we're going to apply those additional resources to the spaces that we need to from a typical policing and enforcement perspective. But we're also going to push to fill the gaps that exist that cause the pressures on the community. And again, I would go, the analogy I would use is like, people know there are certain things that are not good for their health. Whether it be diet, smoke, all those things. They understand that there's things that they do, if they do them, could result in a health condition. We don't know what the health condition could be. It's very similar in the area of public safety. Prevalence of illegal firearms is going to result in an escalation of violence, and that violence could be robberies, could be jewelry store robberies, home invasions, carjackings, that type of thing. So we need to address that as an issue. Violent people who have demonstrated a long history of violence against our community are going to do that again. Recidivism rates in certain offenses are high. It's a small percentage of people that are willing to do the crimes that we're seeing, and they continue them over and over again. So we have to ask ourselves, how do we break that cycle? Good news is we do have a voice. We are advocating and sharing what we think those issues are with the right people. But if you ask me, is there more work to be done? Absolutely.
Do you want changes in the criminal code at federal level?
I would love to see changes.
But why our politicians not acting? Because they say there is no need to change the criminal code. That what the member of parliament, when we talk to them, they said ask the province, they have the criminal codes, they have to act, we don't have to do anything.
Yeah, I would really, depending on the offense and the topic, I would like to see changes in the criminal code. I'll give you an example. as a police officer, if I'm going to execute a search warrant on a residence, one of the things that I would have to do if I was going to execute that search warrant, so remember, I have grounds that an offense has occurred, I believe that there's going to be evidence inside of it, and if for whatever reason I need to execute that at night, I need to articulate that to a justice. If a person breaks into my home at 3 o'clock in the morning, there's no distinction between that offense and if he did it during the day. I would argue, and I'm sure you would agree, that breaking into my home means something very different in the middle of the night when my family's sleeping and I'm expecting to be safe than it does during the day. Neither, of course, is good, but there's no distinction there. Like those are the types of things that I think need to be articulated and incorporated into the offenses that we lay against people.
This week, Peel Police and all the police forces, we salute them again and again because they do the best work for the community. This week also, police arrested 5 people for break-and-enters and other thefts. $237,000 of worth goods were stolen by them. But we got lots and lots of messages by the community when they were sure that they will be released. And that happened, they all got the bail, they are released. So they will be a repeated offender, they will do a crime again. So is the morale of the police force, because you are doing advocacy, we are doing advocacy, the criminals we are seeing, they are out, they are doing a crime, police is catching them and they are out again. They will do a same crime. And you already mentioned there is a small number of people. So why can't we keep them behind the bars?
It's a great question. I agree. But like specific to the morale, so the logic of the rinse and repeat and the same person in and out, I do think there are certain circumstances where with the right conditions, it's entirely appropriate for a person to be released on bail. I understand that. But what we're seeing with increasing frequency is people who should not be out on bail being released on bail. And I could give you a variety of different situations where that has occurred. And that I disagree with. I do think there needs to be change there. But what I will also say, and it's one of the reasons why I have such an incredible and profound appreciation for the women and men and the people from our organization that support them in doing their job in the way that they deliver that job. There is such dogged determination, and police officers become police officers because they want to protect the community. So it's not always about winning and seeing everybody away forever. They're out there doing their job because they want to, very simply, they want to catch the bad guy and they want to put him before the courts so that they can answer for those crimes. And this organization continues to do that day in and day out, despite barriers like the frustrations of the bail system and a host of other barriers that they may face. They just keep doing their job, and I'm so appreciative of them for that.
Deputy Chief, a lot of law enforcement across the Canada, they might be watching us, and public safety is always a serious talk, is a concern. But on the other side, if we have some humor, like if I ask you, since you have experience in the law enforcement and you are a justice minister for a one day, or you are a leader of a country, into this experience, what one thing you will change? What needs to be done?
Yeah, I think what needs to be done is everybody needs to drop what it says on the bottom of their business card. Because you're right, like there is a tendency to say, well, this isn't my, and I'm entirely open to this as well from like a policing perspective. Drop the organization's name on your business card and pull the right people together and start doing some solutioning. Like, if collectively you got a bunch of great minds in the right room, and without any sort of insecurities or finger pointing or any other influences, looked at what's really happening and how we could address it, I am absolutely sure that you can make a difference, and relatively quickly you can make it a lot more difficult for the wrong people to take advantage of and target the right people and make our community safer.
Deputy, there is a rise in the sexual assault cases in Ontario and committed by those who don't even have a status here in Canada, here in Ontario. What do you have to say on that?
Yeah, deeply concerning. So first off, I don't immediately have the data like one attached to the other, but I can tell you anecdotally, we have conducted a number of stranger investigations where ultimately we found out that the person was not a resident in Canada. That's not to say that that's the norm across Canada, and I don't have that information. Again, Canada has laws, expectations, and regardless of whether or not a person is a citizen here or not, everybody should follow those. And when they don't, what I would say, like from Peel's perspective, is if you don't, we're really, really good at identifying that you haven't and holding you accountable for that. So, I'd much rather meet people and shake their hand rather than have our folks meet them and put handcuffs on them.
So policing alone cannot tackle the issue of intimate partner violence.
No,
And enforcement and prevention has to go in hand.
No, we can't tackle it alone. What police have become really, really good at doing is leading the charge. The reality is because of the position we hold and how much people look towards us to help address some of these community safety issues, they listen. So, we have a couple of different responsibilities. The first is, of course, we have to enforce the law, we have to protect our community, listen to our community, and represent them appropriately, and we do that. But if you want to tackle the issue, you then need to look for the gaps, look for the opportunities to fill those gaps, and then find the people who can do that for you, the decision makers who aren't under my command or the chief's command. And we need to advocate on behalf of the community so they make those changes. And that's why, intimate partner violence, there's so many different nuances to it that require so many different people collectively to be involved in order to really cancel it out. And, we're happy to invite those people. At times we're happy to pressure those people to make those decisions. And, that's the way you make a difference.
We wish a happy International Women's Day.
Amazing.
And your final message to all the residents, including the women of Ontario and Canada, what is your message for intimate partner violence? Your message.
Yeah, to me the two messages, they could be connected, and I'm going to keep it that way. So from a public safety perspective, tomorrow is International Women's Day, and I would just congratulate every female, woman, or person who identifies as such for all their contributions to our community. The reality is there's so many inspirational stories and contributions that come from that community that really make our world a better place. Specific to intimate partner violence, anybody that's involved in that, I would say get help. Find somebody that can help you, find somebody that can provide you some guidance, and you don't deserve that. There's no reality whatsoever that a woman should be afraid or be in danger, and don't allow it.
Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you.